There's a lot of buzz, a lot of excitement around social networks, especially this year with the IPOs of Twitter and Zynga and Facebook all being speculated about and watched eagerly. Here's our take on it. As far as we can see, the social phenomenon is not a fad. It's a reality because 750 million people are now on the social network. As far as I can calculate, looking at all the public statistics, Facebook is adding between 500,000 and 1 million people a day, consistently, every day. And there's no end in sight. Within 36 months, to paraphrase a quote I used earlier in this speech, substantially everyone with money and power on the face of the earth is going to be on the Facebook network. If it's not all, it'll be north of 95%. And so that's a very interesting reason we should care about it. The other reason we should care about it is because people spend a lot of time looking at this channel, an hour a day sometimes looking at this. And so it's become the new media. It's the television of our age. And if television subsumed and overwhelmed radio, then social networks are overcoming the broadcast networks. It's also where all the personal data is. We've actually got an interesting phenomenon where through the vision of Facebook, they have collected the world's most comprehensive database of people and their interests that we've ever had access to in the history of the world. And in fact, if I have a database of 1 billion people and I happen to know everything they love and everything they're interested in and what they think they're going to be interested in, and if they have all the money on earth and all the power on earth, then presumably every single company on earth that actually serves them in any way or has influenced them in any way needs to know about this. It's, there's 300 million people that spend money in the United States of America, every large corporation selling to the same people. So here we've got an interesting network that has managed to collect tables that organize people's name and their email and their telephone number, but also organize where they are and how they're related to each other and what they like and what their aspirations are and where they come from. The cost to collect that information company by company is prohibitive. On the other hand, Facebook has driven a crystallization in the economy, and the amount of information that they can inject into the economy and the amount of clarity they can inject is extraordinary, and they can do it at a cost that's probably 1 million times cheaper than the cost that any company can provide it. So it really can't be ignored as a data source. And then finally, Facebook has created a social graph, which is in essence the system of connections that we all have to each other. So the social network tells us who we're married to, who our children are, who our parents are, who our friends are. And if you go to Facebook and you type your own name, or if you go to Google, and maybe that's a better example, go to Google and type your own name, you'll see there are dozens of you. In fact, the most unique name, there are still dozens or hundreds of that person scattered around the world. On the other hand, there's only one of you that has a relationship to the 1,000 most interesting people in your life. And so names in themselves are ambiguous, but relationships tied to names are unambiguous. And the significance of that is you can move a message or a product or a service or a permission around through the social network 1,000 or 10,000 times more efficiently. If I want to wire money to my brother, and I want to do it using the traditional banking network, I call my assistant, and she has to call my brother. He has to find his banking wire code instructions, and there's about 97 digits worth of them, and he has to get them to her without a transcription error. She has to transcribe them and type out a letter, print the letter, fax the letter to a banker. The banker has to hand it to a clerk. The clerk has to transcribe the 97 digits again, has to look up my phone number, and then has to call me on the phone during banking hours. I have to pick up the phone, whereupon they ask me whether or not I wanted $100 to go to my brother. I generally say yes. They don't actually read the 97 numbers in the transcription code, if they did read them, I wouldn't recognize them, and I would have to rely upon someone to send me those 97 numbers, and I'd look at them, and there's still a chance I would get it wrong. A lot of people can't even read the 97 numbers without special glasses, and without sitting down at a desk and laying it out on a table and amplifying it or magnifying it, I probably won't get it right. As a practical matter, and I can tell you honestly, I've wired millions and millions of dollars around the earth, and I've never actually got to the stage where I'd cross-checked the transcription codes and the bank routing numbers with the ones I thought that I wanted to send to. That entire process takes about 5 people and 24 to 48 hours, and it's enormously painful. On the other hand, using the Facebook social graph, I could literally speak into a feature phone and say, send my brother $100. And in 2 seconds, without any human intervention, it would work with 1,000 times more accuracy. And when you just pause and you consider the consequences, well, how many people want to send their brother $100? Or how about send my wife the concert tickets to get into the opera tonight because I'm stuck at work? Or let my sister into my apartment? Or call my father? Right? There are a lot of things we do in this world that traditionally have been wrapped around a number or a very difficult, intricate process. The social graph accelerates that, accelerates the communication and the motion and velocity throughout the economy by orders of magnitude. There's just no other way to find that social graph right now. Facebook's created it. It's the first company in the history of the world that created that graph. It may not be the last, but it's certainly the first. If I actually tie that graph to any good or service, then I can create extraordinary virality. I can make many things, if not most things, viral. The company Zing is about to go public. They're speculating with a $20 billion or more market capitalization. It didn't exist 48 months ago. And in those 48 months, it managed to spread out to accumulate 300 million people using its games. It managed to get nearly 100 million people using the game Cityville in 41 days. It did it using the social graph. As far as I can see, it's the fastest spread of an idea in the history of the world. But of course, it's just a game. Right? It's just a game. How much faster would money spread down the social graph? If we were spreading insight, advice, transportation, or other sorts of permissions or legal rights or monetary rights down a social graph, presumably that's all a lot more interesting to us than a game. But it turns out the games spread down a social graph are worth tens of billions of dollars. I think it's just too powerful to ignore. That graph is organic, it's viral, it's networked, and it's not subject to any hierarchical law. So the fascinating thing is that governments think hierarchically. They want to issue a passport. Facebook is much more organic. The result is that Facebook has a unique set of user IDs, or a unique customer ID that ranges to 750 million people. The US government doesn't. There's no government on earth that has that uniqueness. If I needed to identify someone uniquely in the global economy, I couldn't do it with any database right now that's provided by any large corporation or any government. My best bet would be Facebook, and Facebook, as it continues to expand, is the primary index for people. We've observed, if we look at our customers, that our customers have large enterprise databases and large enterprise data centers. They're controlled, and they're predictable, and they're hierarchical. The database that a bank has, or the enterprise data center that a healthcare company has, they're subject to lots of laws, lots of concerns over security. There may be legal and regulatory requirements. And they've been developed very methodically by very educated people with large sums of money over the last 50 years. I would estimate $15 trillion or more. Trillions and trillions of dollars have been spent on this. I think $800 billion is spent every year just maintaining this stuff. And so by the time you integrate that over the past 50 years, you can imagine how much money is sitting in those networks. On the other hand, we've got this social network, and it's forming this social graph and collecting all this social data, which none of us can afford to ignore because of the extraordinary power that it reflects to our marketing, our sales, our services, and our security of our operations. What we've decided is that it's very, very important for us to help all of our customers find a way to integrate with the social network. And it's a non-trivial challenge. So we've dedicated hundreds of engineers, and we are dedicating hundreds of millions of dollars during the coming few years in order to make sure that we're providing the right gateway and the right cloud services and the right hardware infrastructure and the right operational infrastructure so that anybody that has a traditional enterprise application or enterprise customer or enterprise loyalty program can find a way to integrate their customer's persona in their traditional environment with the persona that customer has in the Facebook cloud. As I said, the first billion people probably have most of the credit cards on the planet. So we know that the billion people that are going to be customers of Facebook in the next 3 years are also customers of American Express, Visa, and MasterCard. We know that the billion people that are Facebook users also are smartphone users. So they're going to be customers of the top 30 or 40 telephone companies. We know where they shop. We know what countries they live in. We know what entertainment they're interested in. And we know that there's a substantial overlap. The question that everyone is asking is, how are we going to combine those two things? How do I actually create the socially aware credit card or socially aware money? How do I actually inject friendliness into my telephone or into my mail system or into my healthcare system or into my entertainment system or my gaming network? We think that that's probably one of the key, if not the key question of the day. And tomorrow, that will be the focus of my keynote. How do you actually create friendly systems that integrate the social network into your existing corporate network? And I think it's an exciting subject. We've made a lot of breakthroughs in that over the past year. We've got a lot of really cool technology to share with you. We think the gateway for Facebook is the first of its kind. No enterprise software company, in fact, no company I know of in the enterprise industry has come up with the idea of a bilateral gateway or a full duplex gateway that would synchronize and interconnect your network with the Facebook network. But we've done it, and we're excited about it. We think it's really good for Facebook. We think it's really good for your corporation. And we think increasingly customers are going to demand that all of their suppliers and all of their vendors be socially aware and sympathetic to their interests. And this is just a first but key cornerstone technology in order to bring these networks into alignment. So I won't say any more on that, but it's a teaser, so you come and see me tomorrow morning. We think about Facebook, and we think about the world and all of the forces that are impacting the world, and we have a phrase for all that, which is friendly. We'd like to talk about friendly applications, and in order to help you create friendly applications, that is applications for Facebook, we've created a gateway, and this is our first product in a line of product releases that we expect to come out with during the coming year or two. Coming back to my keynote from yesterday, there are 4 forces, and I talked about mobile and social and cloud and big data. Tim pointed out 100 terabytes a day are passing through the Facebook cloud. 100 terabytes a day is just an extraordinary, extraordinary number. We got into this industry, and McDonald's was one of our earliest customers, and I'm proud to say people from McDonald's are here today. And I'm thrilled at all the things we learned from McDonald's. But one thing I learned from McDonald's was just how hard it is to analyze a large amount of data. And back in the early 90s, that was 200 gigabytes. Today, 100 terabytes a day from one source. For those of you who are wondering whether or not your skills at managing big data or architecting business intelligence systems were going to come in handy, well, now you've got some fuel for those skills. Back to my slide from yesterday, why do we think that the social phenomenon is critical, and why do we think it needs to be intertwined into everybody's enterprise IT strategy? Well, it's where the people are, it's where the personal data is, and it's where all the connections are. I think Tim's articulated well how challenging it would be for any of our individual companies to collect this information, and at the same time how Facebook is doing a tremendous job to provide us with a shared platform and an architecture that we can all synchronize with and we can all share with. When we look at the social graph as intelligence analysts, what we see is a number of classifications of information. We see demographic information like name and gender and age and residence and employer and title. And this is a fairly rich set of information. We can't come up with a better place to acquire this anywhere in the world. But we also see friend information. Who are my friends and what are their networks? We see interest information. What is it that I'm interested in and what are my friends interested in? And even interest expressed with a certain affinity or a polarity. Some things I'm interested in, some things I actually like. And finally, there's a whole host of logistic information, operational information, like places I'm going to, places I'm checking into, events that I'm attending, events I've been invited to. The fact that you were invited to the royal wedding is a very interesting piece of information. It's not demographic, it's not about your friends, it's not about your interests, but it speaks to your status or entitlement or your relationship to some other type of organization. The fact that you didn't accept or didn't attend is also kind of interesting, I suppose. The crossover of the events you've been invited to and the events your friends have been invited to is interesting. And of course, the relationship between the things you've been invited to and your interests is also interesting. It's especially interesting, I suppose, if you're not being invited to things that you're very interested in. I suppose it might be interesting if you never attend things that you are interested in that you're invited to. All that's sitting out there in the Facebook cloud, but the people in this audience, they're representing corporations, all sorts of corporations. Your friends can get access to this information just by becoming your friend. That's almost the Facebook has established a technical definition of a friend, and turned friend from a noun to a verb. You're friending people or being friended. It's kind of fascinating. Well, for a company to become your friend, or for a company to become a partial friend, they need to create a compelling application, and that application needs to acquire the permission of the fans or the users of the application. What would a compelling application be? It could be an application that gives me news on a company, or gives me news on an event, or perhaps application or ability to access an event. Certainly a compelling application that will get me backstage at my favorite rock star's concert. That's sort of interesting to me. An application that would be compelling might be one that gets me support. Maybe it gets me help. Maybe it gets me into the VIP lounge or the first class lounge in an airport. It might be a perk, maybe a special price, maybe the ability to buy things that aren't available to other people. It might be the ability to jump a line. Maybe I get the VIP line, the fast track line. Maybe I get seated first at my restaurant. It might be a deal. It could be a deal with a deep discount, like a Groupon. It could be a deal where when 10 of my friends take the deal, I get it for free. It might be some kind of loss leader or something tied into some other behavior. And it could be a product. In fact, the application itself can become the product, or it could become a service. And all these things are interesting. But of course, coming back to my theme from yesterday, They get really interesting when they're combined into a single application and they're placed in your pocket. And one application for all these things becomes fascinating. So what's compelling? We think compelling applications to a consumer are mobile, because they're anytime, they're anywhere, and they're omnipresent. They're always available. It's interesting, even Facebook notes that a large number of their people, out of the 750 million, 250 million use the product via a mobile interface. But people that use the mobile product are much more engaged than people that use the desktop product. And it's actually so engaged that it's impacted basic things in life, like the telecommunications network and your ability to call your friends or call anybody. Well, the second thing about compelling applications is they're personal, right? They know who I am. They know where I am. OpenTable is interesting. OpenTable is really interesting when I click on it because I need a restaurant, and it shows me the restaurants that are within blocks of where I am. When my phone knows where I am and who I am, it's interesting to buy things on a phone. It's kind of not so interesting when I get a dialog box that makes me type in my American Express card or my Visa card number, and then it asks me for my mailing address, and asks me for my security code, asks me to spell my name properly, and then asks me to reconfirm. Right? Somewhere around the 10th second of asking me to do things, I become kind of uninterested. And likewise, I'm not so interested when I have to type. If I saw something that said, "Do you want a copy of this?" and I had to type in my own email, I get kind of irritated. One of the more common things we do with an iPhone is we buy a song, and it's kind of cool that you can search for a song and you click on it and you buy it. It's totally uncool if you have to type in your credit card, your payment information. But I actually found it's kind of uncool to even type in my password. And so the most common password that I use is my iTunes password. I shortened my password to the bare minimum number of characters that Apple would let me get away with, and then made it as simple as possible because I type the thing so often. I want it to be so quick and so easy. And when I do type it, then it does all the rest of the work for me, and it personalizes and drops all the stuff into my iTunes box, and then I can get at it, and it makes me very, very happy. Well, the third element of compelling applications is that they're social. Because, again, get back to that photo app, it's kind of fun to be able to take the photo. It's interesting to be able to upload the photo. It's really cool to be able to upload the photo and have my friends post and say, "Ooh, I wish I was there." Or my ex-girlfriend think, "Oh, sorry I dumped you. If I was still with you, I'd be at the front row of this concert." And you want to rub it in that they made a bad decision. I wonder how much of this Facebook is just to remind someone that they should have done something that they didn't do. Or the alternative, which is to encourage people that haven't done anything to do something in the future. But all this posting and liking and commenting and sharing and linking, it's what makes things viral. It's not that fun to do things if you don't have someone to share it with. And I think we all begin to realize that more and more today. So we use the term friendly, and we use the term friendly in a technical fashion, but when we say we'd like to see applications friendly, we're really meaning it would be great if they're mobile and they're personal and they're social. And if we look at all the processes in the universe, and there's a lot of them, they can all be re-envisioned to be technically friendly in the coming decade. Even processes you wouldn't even expect, like mail. You can create friendly mail if you put the right technologies together. If you can create a Facebook application, or you can harness the power of Facebook to help you create friendly mail. For example, the way we send mail today is we actually address it, and in the Federal Express package, you actually take a Federal Express form which comes in quadruplicate. It's like this big, and you have to type in your name, your address, your email, your phone number, sometimes your credit card information, your credit card billing address or security codes. And then at the bottom, you have to type in the name of the person that's going to get the mail, their address, their phone number, their postal code, their telephone number. Then you have to check off a bunch of boxes. It's about 40 fields, 40 fields. If you send 1 billion pieces of mail a year, that's 40 billion things that have to be filled up by hand. I can tell you for a fact, I can't remember those things for anybody in the world other than myself. I'd have to go and look it all up. And when I look it up, I'm not quite going to get it right. I'm very frustrated. I'm very impatient. It takes a long time. And ironically, if I did get it just right and I sent that mail to you and I wanted delivery confirmation, if you're not there to actually accept the mail, it bounces and they have to come back and deliver it the next day or the next day. It might not actually get to you. Today, you can actually take a quick code, a two-dimensional barcode that's like the size of my thumb. You could put it on an envelope, just stick it like a stamp with no other label. You could take out your smartphone, you could scan the quick code, and you could just type in BRO, brother, or I could type in, my brother's name is Stephen, STE. If I type in STE against the Facebook social graph, it'll find Stephen Saylor, and I hit send, and in 2 seconds it just goes. And it's a lot better than current mail, because in 2 seconds I can address it. All I got to do is remember his first name. I don't even remember the last name of the person I'm sending it to. Facebook will probably remember it for me. I don't remember all the rest of the stuff if I link this. And what's very fascinating is friendly mail takes on the characteristics of Facebook mail, which is cool because you can't spam anybody, right? I can't get junk mail, right? So if you're worried about what's going through the mail, Facebook combined with the mail would create friendly mail, and friendly mail is safe, right? So there are actually security applications of this. It would be safer, it would be quicker, it would be slicker and easier. It's also more private, right? Because you can't just look at a 2D barcode and figure out who that mail's coming from or going to. So I don't have to share all my personal correspondence with the world. I can actually have something which is actually much more secret. And those are interesting. What's also interesting, though, is at the point that I send the mail, my friend would immediately know it's coming. They might not want the mail. They could reject it. It also turns out that my brother can change location between when I send the mail and when he receives the mail. So the mail will follow him around, which is kind of cool. And what we're seeing is we're incorporating all the cool characteristics of email or Facebook mail with physical products that are moving through the ecosystem or through the economy. Now, if you start to consider the friend network, though, there are other applications that get kind of mind-boggling. For example, my friend could decide when they want the mail to be delivered. So Stephen could say, well, deliver it to me on Thursday in Paris or next Monday in London. So he could move it around. I could send my mail collect. I could say, Stephen, I don't have any money. I want you to pay for it. And he could accept that. He could reject it. He could actually scale it up and say, I want the mail to be delivered in 2 days. I'll pay $10. No, deliver it to me in 2 weeks. I'll pay $1. So you can actually change the nature of the product you're selling if you're Federal Express. And then one of the more fascinating things is I could actually send the mail to a group of 4 people. I could have 4 friends. I could actually say, anybody in my family can sign for the mail. Or I know that 4 roommates live in a dormitory at Harvard. I could send it to one of them and say any of the other 3 could sign for it. It's kind of quick. I could actually say any of Steve's friends could sign for it. Kind of also interesting. Now imagine how Federal Express would implement that with carbon paper and quadruplicate, making you write out everybody's name, email, and telephone number and surface mail address. Right? All the things that I've offered up are conceptually straightforward, and I can implement them with a barcode and a smartphone in about 10 seconds or less. And it will work flawlessly nearly all the time. And all those things in the physical world or the electromechanical world, although in theory they could be implemented, would cost 1,000 or 10,000 or 100,000 times as much energy, and they're just not going to happen. So who doesn't want friendly mail? I mean, We know people want friendly mail because if you look at the rate at which people are sending postal mail or other types of surface mail, it's falling off every year. But having said all that, there are just a lot of things that are physical, and we just can't squeeze them into a computer yet. So there will be physical mail for a while to go, maybe for quite a long time. But why couldn't it be friendly? And if it could be friendly, why couldn't we actually make that a business benefit? Physical things are things we share. Facebook's all about sharing. So instead of sharing the mail, we can also share money, right? So what if we could actually find a way to share money better, right? What about a friendly credit card, right? Electromechanical credit cards have their limits. But with a friendly credit card, if you take the credit card and you put it into a smartphone, and then you make it a Facebook application, then I could send a credit line. I could actually issue a credit line to my daughter, my friend, my son, my wife. And I could give my daughter a credit card which allows her to spend $50 a week, but she can't spend it in bars. Or I could send my friend a credit line, but it's not really a credit line. It's almost like a gift certificate. I'll give them $20 that they can spend once. Maybe I could send you a $20 gift certificate to my favorite merchant, and I could just roll it myself. I don't need to go and pick up a physical gift certificate. I can just type $20 at Starbucks, hit send, and it goes. What's also interesting is friendly purchases. I and my brother and my sister could all agree to split the cost of a gift to our parents. I could say, I found something for $200, and I could say, I'm going to pay a third of it. My brother's going to pay a third. My sister's going to pay a third. And I could implement that in about 5 seconds. It's kind of hard. Think about how hard that is to do today, split the tab, and especially if we're in 3 different locations. And I could create systems where people get credits as long as they buy from certain vendors or it's tied into a certain brand. What's fascinating about a friendly credit card is that I can, in a matter of seconds, issue them. I could revoke them as well. So combining mobile with friendly allows me to do things extraordinarily rapidly. I could walk, and I can actually use credit card kind of like cash. Like I could take 12 kids out on a field trip. At lunchtime, I could say, okay, 12 kids, click, 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 click. You all have $20 for lunch. Zap them all $20. Whatever they don't spend comes back to me. And they have 1 hour to eat. Try to do that with your American Express today. What about a friendly phone? If I actually turn the phone, it doesn't have to be a smartphone, it could be a feature phone, right? There are 5 billion phones on the planet, 1 billion of them are smartphones. What if I turn my feature phone into a friendly application? Well, I load the phone, and as soon as I get the phone knows who my friends are. And if it knows who my friends are, it may know where they are. So I can have different ringtones for my friends, for friends of friends, for strangers. So when the call's coming in, it's like caller ID on steroids. I can have a different ringtone based on where my friends are. If they're actually nearby in the same city, I could actually have it ring a different way or display a different way on a feature phone. One cool thing about Facebook is you get the picture of the person, right? So when people call me on the phone, I could actually see a photo of who they are. Now, there are applications right now that sometimes show you a photo of your friend, but how cool is it that it would be synchronized in real time? And so when their photos, their profile pictures change, the phone actually knows that. I can tell you for a fact, right, that I'm struggling in phone hell right now because I have an iPhone, I have a BlackBerry, and my BlackBerry, the memory started to overload, and so for about 3 weeks, it wouldn't remember any of the numbers I put into it, and so I'd put in 50 or 100 phone numbers. By the way, how many people actually type phone numbers into their phone to save them? Right? I mean, probably a lot of you, right? Probably everybody. I think I've typed 5,000 or 10,000 phone numbers into a phone in my life, maybe 20,000 phone numbers. What about a world where I didn't have to type in a number ever again? I gave an illustration the other day, actually. I was wandering around a random party here in the south of France, and I happened to come upon a person. I wanted to write their phone number down. I got their name. I typed in the first 3 letters of their name, T-A-L. And I typed into Facebook, and Facebook scanned all billion people or whatever in the network and actually returned this person to the top because we had 6 friends in common. I typed T-A-L, I saw their picture, I saw their name, you hit save, you've got everything indexed. You picked it up in a couple of seconds. So friendly phones can pick up phone numbers, but more interestingly, when someone calls you, you would see who's calling you, even if you can't read, right? You can look at the phone picture and you can understand. You could set up friend lists or certain types of groupings to block numbers or to control who can call you. So maybe only my very, very close friends or my family can call me after 10 p.m. at night, and that would be useful. And here's something that I struggle with a lot, which is how many people actually get conference calls in the business environment. I try to set up a conference call. If it's a conference call with 3 people, maybe you can almost do it with a phone. Once it gets to 4 people, it becomes very painful. When I have a conference call with 4 people, I look at my calendar, and it's got a 9-digit conference call. So first I dial into the conference bridge, I type in this 9-digit thing, I hit pound, and then I have to type in the leader code, and then I wait, and I hear a beep, beep, such and such has now entered the conference, and beep, beep, such and such has now entered the conference, and that's if it works out perfectly. I don't really know who's on the line. I don't know if someone else is listening on the line, and it's a pain to figure that out, and it takes like a minute. And if I'm not lucky, I have to actually sit down at a desk and write all this stuff down on a sheet of paper, and then I have to look at my phone, and I type very carefully like that. But with a friendly phone, I could literally say, tell all my friends we're having a conference call at 5 p.m., click, zap, and then at 5 p.m., my 18 friends would all be able to dial in, and nobody else would be able to dial in, and no one would be typing in all those stupid codes. And when they dial in, I would actually see a list of all my friends that dialed in, and no one who's not my friend could dial in. So it's secure, it's safe, it's simple, it's fun. And of course, you're probably imagining corporate applications of this. I mean, it's probably a reason to make someone in your company your friend, just so you could avoid typing in all those digits. But it's so obvious, it's right in front of our face if we have some kind of social graph that's dynamic and linked, and it's so obviously painful without that. So, big picture, friendly applications. They make enterprises more personal, right? I can actually convert my brand, the Starbucks brand, into the brand that lets you send gift certificates to your sister. It's kind of personal, it's very intimate. On the other hand, we can also make people more enterprise capable, right? The average person doesn't know how to send a package, a Federal Express package, and they get really kind of frustrated by it. And the average consumer has a hard time navigating your technical support requirements, your delivery requirements. I think this is a great opportunity to bridge the gap between the big, scary company and the individual that happens to be the consumer that makes all the difference in all of our lives. And so with that, we've created a product, and we call it Gateway for Facebook. And in essence, it's a technology to help you build Facebook applications. And Facebook is a development platform, and it's a whole ecosystem, and there's a structured methodology for how you can do that. There are APIs. There are expectations about how you use the information. There are expectations about what the applications can and cannot do. But having said it all, it can be somewhat technically daunting. We've had some of our customers, big customers, companies that actually are billions and billions of dollars a year in revenue and have hundreds or thousands of IT professionals. And they've said to us, well, we worked for a year on our Facebook application, but it just didn't, we couldn't make it work. And so I think everybody, if they don't realize the power of Facebook before this presentation and before Tim stood up and spoke with you, I'm hopeful that now you realize that at 100 terabytes a day of clean data, if you don't integrate with the Facebook universe and your competitor does, you're in trouble, right? So we can't afford to ignore this. You would ignore the social network at your own peril. So that just leads us to the next question, which is how do we actually integrate most constructively and most rapidly and quickest and easiest with this architecture? It's a technical challenge as well as a business challenge. The marketing people have their work to do, but the technologists have a lot of work to do. Gateway for Facebook is about helping organizations create friendly applications faster. And that's what we want to do for all of you. Just help you do your job better and quicker. And let's all move into the 21st century and make our customers' life and make our customers' experience friendlier and make our brand friendlier and find a way to help people share things that they want to share in life. And I think Facebook's done a great job of sharing communications and photos and videos. But when it comes to sharing physical packages or sharing money or sharing experiences or sharing other types of communications, all the organizations, enterprises in the world have an important role to play, and we can't do it without them. So we'd like to help everybody be more friendly. And so to show you what we've done in that area, I'd like to invite Mark Leroux to stage. Mark?
Thank you.